So the worms have arrived for my flow through bin that I made in my last worm video. So this was from a different company than the one I got my first wormy from. This is from Yorkshire Worms. 250 grams of tiger worms, 100 grams of European night crawlers. They go well together apparently, so that's what I've got for this bin. It's a big bin, not a big amount of worms. I just like to keep the price down a little bit. Didn't want to spend too much. I could have got a kilo of worms, I think, for about 50 or 60 quid, something like that. But you know, I'm not in a massive rush. I just want to get it going. And these worms, I think with postage, it was just over 20 quid. So that'll get it going, you know, so that's fine. So what I'll do is I'll get the camera set up, looking into the bin, so you won't see my beautiful face, unfortunately, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do it the same way as I've done my little recycling bin. So I'm going to use my compost, which is not got any more heat left in it, before I turn it for the third time. So it's basically a compost that is pretty much fully rotted and broken down. All the heat's out of it. It should have all the nutrients in it. I'm actually so that's what I did in my recycling bins, and I've actually seen a video since, because I wasn't sure if I'd made the right choice in doing that for my recycling bins. But I watched a video yesterday in America, and this guy had visited a big worm operation, and they use a combined feed and bedding, which is made from compost. So it's from landscapers compost. So it's all chips, wood chips, greens, browns, all mixed together and composted down. And they use that as a bedding and a feed. That's all they use. They put some amendments with it, different amendments into the material itself, and mix it all together. But I was actually quite chuffed when I saw that, because I realised that I can actually use my half-made compost, once all the heat's out of it, as a complete food and bedding. So that's what I'm going to do with this bin. The other little bins I'm going to use for my kitchen waste directly, but this bin I'm going to purely feed it on my sort of half-done compost and just see the difference, see how it goes. So I've been interested to see how it works. But yeah, I'll get the camera over and we'll get this bed filled. Right, so in the bottom I've put a layer of cardboard, just one layer thick, and then a few extra bits to fill in the gaps. So it's probably a couple of layers thick in places. But this is just to help to hold any of the compost from falling through the grids, the grates, until the worms have sort of worked it, which will sort of bind it together. So a bit of cardboard, nice and tight fitting in the bottom. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a water, just a little bit over like that, just to moisten it. Doesn't have to be absolutely sodden, but that's just moistened it. And now I will put in a layer of compost. So I'm probably going to go about sort of anywhere 4 to 6 inches maybe with this. We'll see. I've got two trugs full here. I'm going to put, oh, there's already a couple of worms. A couple of worms in there. Let's see, give that a bit of a rake out. That's not far off actually. So I'm going to put a good 2 or 3 inches of leaf mould on top. So there's an old stalk there, that'll do. Can stay in there. So what's that? That's probably 3 inches. I'll get one more trug full to put in there quickly, because I think it wants to be sort of 5 or 6 inches total, with the leaf mould. So I'll just get this one more trug to top it up. Right, get this in there. Right, so that's 3 40-litre trugs. That's 120 litres approximately, maybe 100 litres. They weren't totally full of sort of half done compost. Like I say, there's no heat in this, so you don't want it hot because it would kill the worms, but it's going to be full of bacteria and little insects and things, maybe even some other earthworms that have come up. So let's get the worms. So these worms have come in. I suppose that could go for your letterbox, which is quite good, a little letterbox sized parcel, and they're just in perforated. You can see there's hundreds and hundreds of little tiny holes in there just to keep some air on the worms. So, oh yeah, it says on the bag, so there you go, 250 gram tigers and 100 grams of the European night crawlers. It sounds like some out of a horror movie, doesn't it, European night crawlers? But so I'll just gently tip these out, just together onto the surface in the middle of the bin. There's the tigers. And there's the night crawlers. I'm just going to have a little look, just out of interest, see if there's actually any visible difference. I think the night crawlers are a bigger worm from what I've heard. Let's just have a little look. I mean, in all honesty, tigers, night crawlers, there's not a lot in it. You know, an expert might notice a difference. I can't really tell. But anyway, that's what they are. So like I say, it's not a big amount of worms for this size of bin. I probably should have put a couple of pounds of worms in, you know, a kilo. But I didn't want to spend that sort of money. I'm happy to just sort of wait and watch. That's all part of the learning curve, isn't it? So I did decide to order a few more worms. I ordered a kilo of mixed composting worms, tigers and night crawlers. So all in all, there's been just under 1.5 kilos put in this big bin now. I mean, that's still not really enough to get it off to a flying start, but it will kickstart it a little bit. So I'll just let them settle in now and get breeding, hopefully. Look at them lovely wigglers. But yeah, so what I'll do now is I'll put a good load of leaf mould on top. I'll just sort of tear it up a bit as I go. This is sort of half rotted, some of it. These are a bit damper. There's some crusty ones and some a bit more damp. It's all sort of on its way. It's all starting to break down. There was a few small red worms actually in this leaf mould when I pulled it out, so I don't know what type they are, but they can all mix in if they want to. So I shouldn't really have to feed this bin for quite some time, because it's going to take them a while to work all through this. You know, it's like with all these leaves, there's at least 100 litres of bedding and doubling up as feed, obviously. So what I am going to do, because as I explained in one of my other videos, I did have some worm wander, and the worms will tend to go down and potentially could drop out the bottom of the bin if they work their way around the cardboard, which they will. They'll find any little gaps. So I've got a rechargeable torch with a floodlight. It's got a torch, and it's got like a work light on the side, which has 2 settings, a low and a high. On the low setting, it will last 12 hours. So I'm going to set that up under the bin, pointing upwards, so that if they go down, they'll hit the light if they start to come out the bottom, and hopefully that'll make them go back in. It worked in the garage with my first wormery, so I'm hoping it'll work with this wormery. And I'll just recharge that with my solar power that I have down there. I'll recharge that every day, and I'll put it on every single night for the next week until they've settled in. But hopefully with this leaf mould and that, what I found my other wormers, as I've said in my other video, is that the leaf mould and that really settled them down. The recycling bins that I started this way with the compost and the leaf mould, I had no problems at all. I didn't have any worms come out. So I'm hoping this will be the same. I've just got to cut a bit of plastic now to go on top. So basically, I mean, I can just fold it for now. Basically, I'm going to put a bit of plastic over the top, just to hold in the moisture. I just need to cut a bit off there, but just to show you basically what I'm doing. Bit of plastic over the top, and then there is a lid that just fits on. I'll just show you. So the lid just is made of the same sort of timber, just sits smack on top like that. This can then double up as a little table, just for if I'm potting things on, I can stand pots in it. Obviously I wouldn't bang about on it too much, it might upset the worms, but it just keeps them secure, keeps it as a sealed sort of, not airtight, but sealed unit. Stop anything getting in there, or, you know, keeps it safe. But yeah, that's it, job done. What I will do, obviously with all the feed now, I'll leave them to settle in. Won't need feeding for quite some time, but I'll come back in a few weeks, month or two maybe, or whatever, and do an update on all my wormeries as a whole, and sort of show you how they've come on. But yeah, it's a really interesting hobby. If you're into worms, you know, these videos have sort of encouraged you to have a go yourself and just buy some worms. 20 quid, just over 20 quid, you buy some worms, use a recycling bin, or, you know, buy a cheap tote to use. But it's a really interesting, fascinating hobby, and gives you some good fertilizer. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed these videos, and please remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.